Welcome to Courageous Conversation with Teresa W. Gamble, powered by Concierge Resource Professional Consultant.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Courageous Conversations with Teresa W. Gamble, your hostess with the mostest. This is a bright early morning on Wednesday morning, and we are talking with the amazing Mr. Jesus Garay. I met Mr. Garay at a job fair, Work Your Dream Job. That was my first time meeting him, and I was watching him, how he was interacting in the room. And this is one gentleman is a force to be reckoned with. He is an amazing CEO of, let me make sure I get it right, Global Freight Management and E-commerce, because you done added something to your business name since we last talked. And he has an amazing trucking company, and he was able to withstand all the disruption during the pandemic. So I wanted to have this personal conversation with Mr. Jesus to talk about who he is, where he grew up in my hometown in Jacksonville, Florida, and how his life took this amazing journey to be this dominant leader in the freight and trucking industry. Good morning and welcome, Mr. Jesus.
Good morning, Teresa. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Anytime me and you get to chat, and it'd be something serious. So who is Jesus Garay?
So I was born in the Bronx, New York. I just turned 50 2 weeks ago. Born in the Bronx, New York. When I was 6 years old, I moved to Jacksonville, Florida, and we moved to 1505 West 18th Street, right off 18th and Myrtle. If you remember that big warehouse, Red Ball, right there by the railroad tracks. I grew up right there on 18th and Myrtle in the Myrtle Avenue district. Played Little League at Cuckoo Park. I went to Susie Tall, but I went to James Weldon. So like that whole Myrtle Avenue district, all up in Myrtle, all up in Moncrief, that's my hometown right there.
That's amazing. Yep, that's right up the street from where I grew up, College Gardens, not too far from Edward Waters College. So yeah, that was the African-American working class community. And it still is to this day, even though it looks a little different. But we are the most hardest working people in Jacksonville, Florida. So Mr. Jesus, from growing up in the Bronx, coming to Jacksonville, how was that culture shift change for you? Or could you even recall being so young when you moved?
Well, so when I was 6 when I got here. So I mean, although you get a relative decent foundation, you really don't know who you are until you hit your teens. But me being Black Puerto Rican, I had the Black male experience growing up. I grew up in a Black family around Black people my entire life. So although I am Black Puerto Rican, I identify as Black first. Everybody who knows me understands that the Black side of my family, which is who raised me, is what I see how I see myself and how I've lived this experience, this American experience. That's not to exclude the Puerto Rican side of my family. It's just that I didn't grow up around them. So when I see the world, how I see the world is just a little Black kid that grew up on Myrtle Avenue. How the world sees me, that's how they see me. They may see me different, but it's not. I'm not looking at me. I have to explain this to people. I'm inside my body looking out, and everybody I grew up around, and my whole family were just Black people. You know what I'm saying? Wow. So I see the world through Black people, and I'm Black first in all of my actions and all of my thoughts. But I'm for everybody. I just happen to be a Black man growing up in this world.
I love the way you explain that, because sometimes we go through this conundrum, even in the Black culture, of the light-skinned Black person, the brown-skinned Black person, and then the chocolate-skinned Black person. And it's a different experience, each skin tone that we carry. And it's not that, like you said, we was raised by a different group of Black people. We was raised by the same Black people. So I'm just like you. I'm looking out. Shade doesn't matter to me. It's the fact that we came out the same community together. We have some of the similar rituals and routines as a culture. So with that being said, I know that you served for our country, so I want to thank you for your service, for what you do. And it's amazing when we talked, and I really got to know you more when you was in the military. the entrepreneur things that you were doing. So all I know that you served in the military. I think I remember the branch. Was it Navy?
It was Army.
Army. Okay, I should have known because that was the track my husband wanted to go, is Army. So what was your role and what did you do in the Army and how did that experience merge you into entrepreneurship?
So I was a really good athlete coming up, basketball, football, and I had a lot of opportunities. But I had this. I conversely, I still had a lot of that Myrtle Avenue in me.
Of course, that never dies.
One of the things that this is why I mentor so many young men right now, because we have to be able to experience other emotions other than anger. And I'm gonna be honest, as a young person. I want to caveat with the light skin, dark skin thing. I'm going to tell you, and a lot of my friends tell me this. A lot of light skin people catch hell sometime in the Black community. Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell you one reason why I didn't, because I was a really good fighter. So everybody who knows me, they were like, not that one, not right.
Right.
So, but for that, I might have actually had some issues growing up just based on how I look. But I don't recall having any issues in our community just because I could put these ones and twos together real good. But that didn't serve me well in life in my youth. Right. So it got me in trouble. I actually got kicked. Got kicked out of Terry Park. I had to go to Sandalwood. Went to Sandalwood, played sports over there, had tremendous college opportunities. Every college in the Southeast was recruiting me. Wow. But they was like, this guy's he's kind of half cocked. We got to figure out what's going on with this guy. So cut to the chase, I ended up joining the military. It was the best thing for me. It didn't save my life. It allowed me the time and space to save my own life. Because the military, like a lot of other institutions, aren't going to do anything for you. They're going to take what I call circumcise you from society, and it's going to give you time and space to think, all right, boy, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And the first thing that happens, I got snatched out of Jacksonville, went to basic training, and they sent me overseas, straight, right off.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I had the first year I went to Korea, and I got the chance to think and see the world from the other side of the world. And that's when I first looked back at America. I was like, man, that thing's pretty sweet. I know a lot of times we grow up looking at America like, I'm like, this is about the best thing popping for us, in particular for us.
Right.
So when you grow up like we did, everything's a hustle. Right? Because like I like to say, in poor communities, you have 10 people, but you only got enough resources for 3.
That's good.
So a lot of the times, a lot of what we do is we're perpetrating these small petty crimes, just being honest, on each other because it's a resource game. If we look outside, the world is abundant. Mm-hmm. So I spend a lot of time trying to get us to focus outside and broaden our horizons and expand our mindset so we don't have to keep gaming each other. There are plenty of resources out here. We can go grow this pie instead of keep fighting over the same slices of pie. So that a lot of us come up with the entrepreneurial mindset. We just need to be shown another game, another avenue. So being taken out of that world and placed into another continent or another environment, but you're the same kid, you're gonna find ways to generate revenues. And I was always into something, whether I was selling hot dogs in Hawaii. Me and my buddy rented a hot dog stand, and we would go to the beach and we would literally sell hot dogs for 2 or 3 hours. Or sometimes his girlfriend would help us sell hot dogs for 2 or 3 hours. Me and him would split the revenues. We'd literally make $750 profit between each. And then go hang out at the beach for 2 or 3 hours. We were running nightclub operations where we'd bring a bunch of our friends, just a bunch of our female friends to the club. We'd literally walk away with $1,500 profit each at the end of the night, just getting paid for partying with a bunch of beautiful women. Like entrepreneurs will find ways to make money. And then while working on those soft skills, I tell a lot of African-American young men in particular, you need to develop your soft skills. You don't know how to speak to people. You don't know how to be nice. You can't smile. You're not pleasant to be around. All you are is angry. That's only going to get you so far in life. You better learn how to execute some of these soft skills because it opens so many more doors for you. So throughout my travels, throughout the military, no matter where I was, I always had my hands in something. And then what happened, I parlayed that into one house. I just bought one house with a VA loan. Cut to the chase, I ended up was going to deploy, mess around and sold that house, made 30 grand. And I was like, whoa. Wow. Because I had never been shown the real estate game, as none of us have.
Right.
When I made 30 grand in that house, my whole world was rocked. It changed everything. So one of the times I went to Iraq, because I went to Iraq a bunch of times, I took a bunch of books with me and I just fed myself that whole year. When I got back, Teresa, I just took off. I started buying houses, flipping houses. I had a general contractor at the time that I used to work with all the time, but I wasn't really making a lot of money, but I was learning the game. And in fact, sometimes he made more money on the project than I do. So what ended up happening is I became a general contractor. And when I told him, he ended up folding his company. He came work for me. So then,
what?
So that parlayed into a government contract. They were hurting so bad for minority contractors that when they found out, hey, this guy out here, I was still in the military. There's a guy out here building houses, knocking houses down, building roofs, doing kitchens, doing everything. They came and found me. I got a multi-million-dollar government contract. And the guy who was my contractor, he used to own a company called John Ryan Roofing. He ended up being my foreman. And while I was still in the military, I had 26 full-time employees on post building Army housing at Fort Sill, Oklahoma while I was still in the Army. So this journey that started from me, like doing small stuff like selling hot dogs, selling candy. Oh, let me tell you where it really started. When I was in fifth grade, I used to sell candy. This is what messed school up for me. This is why I tell kids, this is what messed school up for me. And I'm not proud about this, but we used to, do you remember Al's Sundries? Right there, I think it was off Fairfax?
Yep, I know exactly. My mom used to take me there all the time with her.
I used to have, I was the only kid that used to have, what do you call it? Like an account. Now, we used to call it something. It wasn't an account.
I know what you're talking about.
So I had a book bag. I used to have no books. We used to get bused to the other side of town,
right,
with our white brothers and sisters,
right?
But they couldn't get the kind of candy and the kind of cookies and stuff. We used to have them Big Blows, M&Ms, Lemonhead, all that kind of stuff. They couldn't get that kind of stuff.
Wow.
So I would go get them penny cookies, Big Blows, them Boston Baked Beans. I used to get all that stuff and I would take it across town and I would sell it. I'm talking about when I was in fifth grade, sixth grade, and they used to get bused to us then in sixth grade at Susie Talbert.
Right.
So I would walk to Al's, re-up, and then walk to Susie Talbert, and I would sell out. I was making $200, $300, $400 a week selling candy. And that's when I realized at an early age, the school thing, and I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but I was like, this isn't it. It's sales in life. You better learn how to sell some stuff in life.
Exactly. That's amazing that you say that, because when you look at the curriculum now in school, they don't teach consumer math anymore. They don't teach home economics. They really stop with a lot of the trade skills, because I used to go to the skills, and I think the year I went, that's when they started phasing them out and making them traditional public schools like everything else, when those are the things that children in the African-American community needed, so they can be able to execute and launch out and not have the slave mentality like a lot of our ancestors had. And so it's funny you said that, because it made me thought about the magnet program that my oldest son was a part of, and they started teaching those things, and he ran the popcorn machine in the magnet program, and they will have fake money, but that fake money led up to him to be able to work toward getting a bicycle or something that he wanted. So it's amazing how you say it started in fifth grade, which I kind of figured that. I said, now I think growing up on Merle Avenue in Jacksonville, I said, in an African-American working class community, I said, hey, Sue got in the game real early.
Oh, yeah.
Real early. So that's good to know. I like the fact that you mentioned that the young men that you mentor, they need to have soft skills, because when I was a teacher, that was the main thing I used to come across with the males. They was always angry, and it was difficult to get them to talk about why they were angry. So I had to learn as a teacher, if they knew how to play sports like basketball or football, I would go outside and we would do hoops or to play 21. And that's how I was able to get them to open up to me.
That's right.
I couldn't get them to open up to me in the classroom because it was too structured. It was too formal. It was too closed in a box. But when I got on their
you are
level,
the system. To at that point, you are the system. You might as well be a cop.
Yep.
So you are everything they're taught to hate, which we got to break that. But at that point in that structured environment, you are the system, and that's where they freeze up.
You are so true. And I noticed that, and the teachers, they couldn't figure out, well, how did you get through to him? Or how did you get through to her? I say, you got to come to their level, not stay there, but come to their level to understand where they are. And that's something I love about you, that you do, and the things that you talk about, and how you take the common sense things. That's what I really want to focus on, because you speak and you operate in the common sense things for us to really take that daily self-examination. So at this job fair, and when you were talking about all these different avenues of entrepreneurship, and I was listening how you was talking to some of the college students that rolled through this job fair, what attracted you to do this mentorship? Is it for the young men to avoid the pitfalls you went through, or to do your part like our ancestors did, how the elders did? They pointed out things that an average person won't say, a society won't say. So what made you drive more in that passion of mentoring young men?
I was a big athlete coming up. I coached Little League for 20 plus years. I was in the Army for 20 something years. Naturally coaching and even as an athlete, I was always like a point guard or a quarterback. So even as a 16 or 17-year-old with other 16 and 17-year-olds, I was always a leader amongst men, right? Not always perfect to this day. I just turned 50 and I got a lot of stuff I'm still working on. And I exposed that to the kids. I'm still working on me. God's still working on me. And you don't have to feel no kind of way about that. I expose my flaws, everybody. Everybody stop trying to act like you're perfect right. I just work extremely hard. One thing I'm going to do is outwork everybody. However, we've been able to be tremendously successful while being transparent and just outworking everybody. You don't have to be perfect. But I am fully in touch with my role in the universe, and I don't complain about my role in the universe. Leaders are readers. One thing I tell these young kids is that it takes the average author will read up to 200 books in order to compose one book. So now, if you understand, if I write one book and I read up to 200 books in preparation for this one book, what about each one of those one books? That author read 200 books too. So in order to read 4 or 5 books, you're tapping into 10,000 books of knowledge. So what I try to do is I first try to get those people off of auditory and visual learning, and I try to get them into some type of a reading program where we share books, we discuss books, we do a lot. Like we're right here on Zoom at 4 in the morning. I make a lot of these young people meet me here at 4 in the morning. I'm going to tell you some of the things that I do. And I mentor in many, many ways, but this is one of the things I do because this is one of the principles of Stoicism. Stoicism has 4 main principles, and it's over 2,000 years old. And the 4 main principles of Stoicism are courage, wisdom, justice, and temperance. Courage, wisdom, justice, and temperance. Temperance, which is the one young men need in particular, is to operate in moderation. All right, so for young men, one of the things I do with these young, in particular, Black and brown boys, but you hear me say this, Black, brown, and poor white kids, because it's a poverty thing, and it's not necessarily, but along race lines, it's just that I have priorities right now. I'm trying to help young Black and brown boys. I make those young kids go to a movie theater by themselves. And when I have them go to the movies, because what happens is we might go to the movie theater with our friends, and something might happen in the movies, and it might make you feel some kind of way. Somebody might get killed, somebody might get beat up, and your natural reaction is you might have actually felt sad, and it might have actually, had you not been around your friends, it might have actually made you emotional. But because your friends are around, you will perpetuate a false reaction in order to appease them.
Right.
Well, my thing is, if I can strip you of that environment, and maybe, just maybe, you might have wanted to cry. And so what? What I'm trying to do is have that young man tap into his empathy gene, right? And so you need, as Black boys, we're not experiencing the full range of emotion. Right. When anything happens, we just react to it with anger. Or like, so somebody gets killed in the movie, you and your friends start laughing. And you do that every time anything happens. And if you can't experience any empathy for anybody, this is going to translate to when you're 17 years old and you see another young black man that looks like you, and you don't even have beef with him, but your friend may have some fake beef with him, and you mess around and kill him. You don't even have empathy for someone that looks just like you, who's going through the same struggle that you are in life, because at a young age, you were never able to tap into your empathy gene. We have cut that off with how hard and how coarse our culture has gotten. So I'm trying to insert empathy into them in any way I can. And I tell them, you got to be able to experience the full range of your emotions, and that doesn't make you soft. I cry at stuff and get emotional at stuff all the time. I will still beat your ass. That ain't got nothing to do. I'm sorry for cussing.
That's okay. Look, I know that's part of who you are.
It doesn't make me any. In fact, it makes me more of a man to be able to absorb someone else's burden and do what I can, everything within my power, to lessen that person's burden, not make it worse. And we got two generations now, what I call lost boys. 2 generations of lost boys that cannot experience, that have not been able to experience empathy. That's just one. We have a whole range of emotions that we're not. I make them go eat by themselves. So what I have them do is I make them go to movies. They gotta FaceTime me, and I was like, all right, don't, because I cash app them $25, and then they go to the movies, and then when they finish, they have to FaceTime me when they talk to me about the movie. And I was like, all right, don't try to play me. Don't be in there with no girl, because I'm gonna pull up on you behind and I'm gonna cut you off. If you playing in the game already, I'm gonna cut you off because I don't have time for this, because I got hundreds of y'all.
Right.
So we do stuff like that. There's these series. I got a whole program I call 300, How to Raise Young, Strong Young Men. I got a series of classes that I take them through, and we're talking about all this stuff. And they actually, one of the first things they do is start crying, because they need a good one. They want to let it out, but they can't do it in front of their friends because they're too embarrassed. I got to get you to the point to where you're not embarrassed to do that. Who cares? Actually, who cares? You're actually hurt. You're actually broken. You need therapy is what you actually need. And then let's go ahead and find you some relative therapy. And then let's help you figure out what it is how did you get to the point to where you're at? So now you can self-correct. But then once you break out of that little thing, this little game we play where we feel like everybody's out to get us, and we're so paranoid, and we realize this is a big ass world out here. And this world is full of nothing but opportunity. And oh, wow, thank the Lord I was able to escape this little game I played. It's time to go out here and crush it, because there's nothing but opportunity.
That's amazing. See, these are the things that and little nuggets that I've discovered and learned about you since we built this relationship. Because when I was a classroom teacher, it was hard to find those men in the community that was willing to deal and tackle those issues. Now, my husband is one of a kind like you. He has his unique way how he mentor not just young men, even some men his age or even older that didn't get the experience empathy training that you're talking about. Because some older men that's over 50, almost 60, almost 70, they didn't have that experience because of the time and the season they grew up in. And that's what I like to try to tell my me and my husband's sons. What happened when y'all was growing up and how we had to raise y'all is different now, since y'all are adult and men. So just because you experience one thing in one era of your life, as you go older, it changes. And I love how you deal with them with empathy, because right now in the social unrest times that we're in, we need more of that. And for each other within our culture, because to me, the Black culture is the one that has the most conflicts. You got other cultures, they get along, they chip in, they help each other out. But I always heard growing up that crab pot mentality. And I hated that, because we're so gifted and talented. So I love what you're doing with your mentors and challenging them to step up to the plate and do what was required. That is so amazing. But one thing I never heard no one say as a male mentor out loud is working on soft skills. Because believe it or not, those soft skills will help them transition into relationships with women and when they decide to get married.
That's right.
Because if they can't be empathetic with the woman that they want to spend the rest of their life with, it's going to be a problem. And that's why divorce rate is so high. So I love that you talked about that piece, because even with our sons, before they started dating girls, they had to learn how to take me on a date. They had to, my husband would be the chauffeur. My husband would go get them a gift card so they can know how to use a debit card or credit card to pay for the lunch or the
And your
dinner.
sons are amazing, by the way. So one of them,
Thank you.
didn't one of them get a doctor's degree recently? I remember one of them
Yes.
got a, yes.
Yes, that was the
And
youngest
you
one.
know, and the people don't know, but you know, I'm in contact with your sons. They check in
Yep.
every now and then. Yeah.
Yep, they do. And that's why I appreciate it. And that's one thing about our African American culture. We think the parents is the one that's supposed to do all the molding and the mentoring. But when they become a certain age and they trying to experience and really find their footing, that's why I like that African proverb that it takes a village. And
Right.
I was strong enough as a woman to realize, okay, yeah, me and my husband is raising them and we're doing our part to make sure they have the bare essentials. But we know it's going to take outside people of our family unit to help them develop even more. So when my oldest son wanted to get into real estate and flipping, I told him, and I was looking for him a mentor. And I had two people in mind, and you was one of them. And I told him, I say, because I'm particular about who I introduce my sons to a mentor, because I want them to get the right skill set and that shared the same similar background and upbringing me and my husband did. So you was the perfect fit. And after he had that first meeting with you, and him and his wife, they was rave reviews. They said, Mama, I love it. He's amazing. And then I knew y'all shared that military background experience. So for that, I appreciate you for, because I see some of the things that I know how you operate. He's beginning to adopt some of those principles.
I would tell you this though, not many people has done more with less. I haven't talked to him that many times. He's over there buying houses, flipping houses. I'm like, that guy's incredible. Because usually I have to walk people through stuff, you know? I've only talked to him a few times and he'd be sending me pictures. I'd be like, this boy, he's buying whole properties, flipping whole properties. He'll send me a picture of it's for sale. Like, I'm like, wow. So that right there is a testament, because you reached out to me recently when we talked and you thanked me. And I was like, no, I said, I appreciate it, but that is a direct testament to how you guys raised him. So the whole thing works. And I even said, a lot of people reach out to me for mentorship, and my 14-year-old son is going to need to listen to somebody else pretty soon. Right? I understand how this thing goes. And so I don't feel no kind of way about it. I appreciate whatever little bit of nuggets I was able to give him. Somebody's going to need to step in and listen and help me and my son, because he's going to get some kind of way about my voice.
Exactly. They're going to get tired of hearing that, and because they think, oh, mom and daddy don't know nothing and this, that, the third. But me and my husband had a conversation all the time. We see our blueprint on their lives, because everything that we did, our sons are replicating it. You know, our oldest
and they're
son,
supposed to take it farther than you.
Yeah.
They're supposed to take the baton. That's what it is. Every generation ain't supposed to start over. That's what we got to get out of.
Right.
In our community for the last two and a half generations, we've been starting over. And you guys are a prime example of where you passed the baton. You didn't drop it, right? And so we got to get out of this thing where our kids at 18 are starting out with bad credit, you're getting kicked out with bad credit, starting over. Like, no, we're supposed to pass the baton while those kids are running full speed. And they're supposed to take it farther. As everything I've done like a 2 or 3 generation. I grew up poor with sometimes no lights and water on Myrtle Avenue.
Yeah.
And I did like a 2 or 3 generation thing. There's no telling what my kids are going to do. Right? And
That's true.
I want them to take it as far as they can. So, but yeah, I appreciate that.
That's good. So I know you mentioned you being a father and a wife. And I know the amazing skill sets that you carry. How do your children feel about what you do with the mentorship with the boys that you work with?
Your kids don't. There's nothing you can do that impresses your kids.
Yep.
That's why when you said that to me, I know exactly how you feel. Occasionally, I had to. You know how many times I've been in a newspaper, because you reached out to me and told me, like, when I was on the front page of Jack's Business Journal.
Yeah, the Daily Record and the Business Journal. I was so amazed. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, they did a full page spread on Jesus, and that is rare in Jacksonville, Florida, to highlight a black Puerto Rican man. And I was so happy, and I told him, I said, you need to put this on social media. I said, so you can inspire and encourage other black men. So yes, I love that art.
Did you see the recent one in Florida Times Union?
Somebody pinged me and sent it to me, and I was in the midst of reading bits and pieces of it
Okay.
yesterday. So I'm gonna finish reading it because
So
I know it's good.
Occasionally, like my wife would have to show them that, and they might be like, okay, but look at what you got to do to just relatively impress your own kids.
That's amazing.
Right? That's why I don't feel no kind. I know they love me, but they don't. I don't feel no kind of way about it. They don't, because that's why I know how you're feeling, and that's why I was like, yeah, my kids they don't like, okay, that's just dad, because they hear me all the time, but I see the energy in their life. My daughter just turned 16 in January. She got her permit last year. She turned 16, got her driver's license, got her car, got her own job. She's a leader on the cheerleader squad. She is trying to actually go. She's in 10th grade, heading to 11th grade. She's actually trying to be an exchange student overseas right now.
Wow.
Like, so you don't become that kind of person unless you're hanging out with them kind of people. So one thing I'm real careful not to do is take credit for other people's accomplishments. You will cut those people off at the knees, and it actually pushes them away from it. So we do give her all the credit for everything she's doing, but we understand where that energy comes from. She's already looking into schools that she can go to, these amazing international schools that she can go to and maybe finish 12th grade. And she wants to go to college in Seoul, Korea for a year, maybe Europe, maybe like you. So this is who she is already. And she's 16 years old, thinking like that. And then, and so like we know by being exposed to people who ain't afraid to take risks and take chances and do things on a big scale, it's bleeding over into her. And so although she's not, what I feel like it's not like she's not impressed by all of the things that we do, the kind of people we get to hang out with. All the politicians around here, all the biggest business owners are just my friends. She feels like that's the standard. She's growing up in a house where that is the standard. You're supposed to be in the mix. You're supposed to be at the biggest. As we're talking about the school board, me and Daryl Willie, the president, superintendent of the school board, we're on the same board together, and we're on a couple of boards together. We're on the Jack's Chamber board of directors together, and he came and spoke. I'm actually on the government affairs board. He came and spoke yesterday, and me and him are going to work on some stuff because 10 years ago I was on a board in the Oklahoma Chamber board. And we worked on some stuff with a school teacher shortage. Jacksonville has a really bad problem right now with a school teacher shortage. We almost relatively solved that problem 10 years ago in Oklahoma. And I gave them 2 or 3 things that we needed to do. And everybody thought that was groundbreaking because this is new for Jacksonville, although it wasn't new for places like Oklahoma, who were competing with places like Dallas. And I gave them 2 or 3 things that I think we should do that we did, plus stuff like we're doing for our business. One of the new statistics that just dropped, there was a big study that just came out that said, and I dropped this for all the businesses in Jacksonville, 40%, a major study just got dropped. 40% of all Gen Xers, that's me and you.
Yep.
Millennials, that's the one right below us, and Gen Zers said they would leave their current job. So that's almost half the people. They would leave the current job for the same exact position and the same exact pay. So not even an upgrade. They would leave the current job for the same exact position and the same exact duties and same exact pay to go to another job that offered to pay a portion of their salary in cryptocurrency. There's a company called NIDIG. We do that right now. I pay myself $100 every week in Bitcoin, and I'm starting to pay my employees and then any truck drivers or anybody around us. But we had to go through the process, and I just did the whole process, and it's real easy because there's a company called NIDIG that does that. So now I got Daryl, who's the superintendent of this Duval County School Board. I told him we need to hurry up and get you on this. And watch, you heard it here first. Duval County School System is about to announce they're going to start being able to pay school teachers in Bitcoin, like not your whole check. Right. But if you want to get $100 of it in Bitcoin or Ethereum or any cryptocurrency, which is the wave of the future, what do you think? What's the age groups of these teachers? We're not talking about people our age. We're talking about 27, 28-year-olds. This is what they like. We're going to be able to snatch teachers from Miami, snatch teachers from Orlando, snatch teachers from all over the country, and they're going to want to move here. What is this city that's down there thinking forward, and they're able to start paying school teachers in Bitcoin? Yeah. And that's just one. I gave him 2 or 3 things that are going to be groundbreaking. And in a couple of months, you're going to see that they're probably going to do a big old thing about it. And you're going to refer back to this when he was like, hey, Zeus told me when he told him that.
Yeah, that's true. That's good. And I know that I was sitting up here saying the same thing, because I just got into learning more about, getting into paying with coins and, creating a cryptocurrency in my business model for my clients. In other words, getting them to buy the coins to get access, say to coaching, or to get access to certain events that I may host.
Access coins? Yeah.
To give people the opportunity to get the content for executionable tasks, and then they can also, invest in that cryptocurrency. So when it gets to a certain maturity level, they can cash out. So they actually get their ROI back. So I love that idea. I think it's going to be amazing. And that again, that's what goes to me seeing you being featured in the paper the way you were, especially during the pandemic with your trucking industry. And I knew a lot of people was after you, wanting to know, how did you do it? What did you do? And when you said it earlier, leaders are readers. And then you researched. That's another thing I always talk about in entrepreneurship. You got to do your homework. You got to stay up to what's changing. And just seeing and watching your success. But in my mind, this gentleman grew up on Merle Avenue, Kings Road, in the African-American working class community, where a lot of people, where they always have this mantra, nothing good comes out the hood. But you is a different testament of that. And that's why I wanted to share your story, your experience with my listenership, with my viewership, to inspire those who have done the great resignation, especially for those Black women, the women in general, they're struggling to, get back in the workforce, and they're having to reinvent and do something different. So a lot of the principles, not that you do just for young men, it applies for us women too.
That's true.
Because
that's true. I've learned my lesson. I don't tell women what to do.
No, you don't. But a true woman, let me say this, an alpha woman would appreciate the thought-provoking comments and statements that you make.
I have for a while, had a lot of women approach me, and I don't know what to do with that. This is me being transparent. Because I'm a boy, I'm a real boy. You know me. I'm a boy. I'm a whole boy. I fall out of trees. I jump fences like I'm a boy.
Yeah.
And I try to promote everything that they've been trying to say is toxic about us. I'm like, no, you need boys to sustain a society. Mm-hmm. We got stuff we need to work on. You're absolutely right. But we need boys. We need men. And it's okay to have men. You got a man. You're married to a man. And look at your sons.
Yeah.
And your sons are men.
Yes,
how dare you try to eradicate us from society? It's not going to happen. Not on my watch. Of course, we got things we need to work on. We all do. But our existence isn't toxic. And this is what's wrong with these boys. These boys grew up thinking they're toxic. We're going to eradicate that word. We're not going to eradicate us. We're going to eradicate that word from society. But lately, and for some time, so many women are seeking my counsel. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know what to do with that. And so I'm tabling that. Now I have friendships like with you, but for so many women that are seeking my counsel, I don't know what to do with that. I don't have to have all the answers. And I'm transparent about that. I don't have all the answers in life. I know what I'm good at. And I'm really good at, I'm damn good at helping young men raise young men. And I've been doing that. And the actual model has been proven. But for so many women to seek my counsel, that's like, I'm like, I don't know. What am I supposed to do with that?
Look, it's two options, because me and my husband has that. He has a lot of women that approach him too, but me and him are real secure in our marriage. I'm not the type of woman that I'm jealous because all these women coming after him, because he has a level of respect for me as vice versa. Him. So when I have learned, when those women come to him that way, for number one, he always let them know he married. For number two, he always talk about me in the conversation, so it won't seem like that it's going outside something professional.
Gotcha.
He keeps it professional, and then if it gets to a certain point where he feel like it's an area that's very touchy, he may bring me in on it. He may suggest for them to find out if they're in church to talk to their pastor's wife. he may suggest for them to go to therapy. But even with me, because I have a tendency to draw a lot of male friends too, I will let them know, okay, when this stop being professional, then we gonna have to cut off the conversation. I just let them know up front, because what you are doing is so needed, and you're being talked about word of mouth. I know you are, because when certain people say certain things, I say, oh, they done been around Jesus, or they done been around somebody that know Jesus, or Jesus done said something, and I've been in a meeting somewhere and they done heard him. So for that, that's a big draw, but that's the line that I've seen my husband do. He get the reason for the approach very clear, you know.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, I want to make sure I double down on that. It has always a lot, because it's a lot of it is in the professional spaces, and I feel like it's 100% thirst for knowledge, not necessarily sexual in nature. So I do want to be clear. But so like one of the things I can't tell you how many business. So I'm a 4 o'clock a.m. I'm a 4 a.m. guy. You know that. We're here right now. It's 4:45. We've been going. I challenge all the business owners, because one thing we got going on right now, this is a relatively new term. I've been in business I've been an entrepreneur for a long time, but I was always also in the Army for 20 years. And then I was an athlete before that. I've been getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning my whole life. And it's actually a principle of stoicism. But what I hear is the whole work-life balance. And all right, so I'm like, all right, well, walk me through your day. And the average person's getting up 6:30, maybe 7 o'clock. And then they're getting ready for work. After they get up at 6:30, 7 o'clock, it's a scramble. It's a mad dash. They're getting ready for work. They're jumping in traffic. One, you're already behind. If you're jumping in traffic, you're already behind. Then you're going to work along with everybody else in whatever city, state, and country you live in. Excuse me, you're getting off work. You either have already shopped or you're shopping. You're coming home. You're spending whatever relative time. Are you spending family time? Or are you in the same house on your tablet or on your cell phone? I ain't finna judge nobody. And then you go to bed, right? So what you complained about was the 2 to 3 hours that you could have spent with your family, but you chose to be on your tablet or your phone with those 2 or 3 hours at the end of the night. And did you get anything done? Did you actually make any ground that day? Because everybody got up at 7 or 8. Everybody went to work, and everybody was relatively productive during those same hours. I'm saying I'm actually done with my business day before 6 a.m. I'm actually done with the admin portion of my business day, whatever my required reading is for that day, whatever I got to do. I'm going to tell you one of the things that I'm famous for, and I'm not doing this for that, but it provides a lot of strategic value. And I probably have hundreds of business owners in this city doing this right now, because everywhere I go, I talk about this. And now, by the time I wake up, it's like it's a race. Maybe 30 people might text me before 4 o'clock, trying to beat me up. This is ridiculous. So one of the things I tell them is that, like, people send me emails, and I teach a class about don't chase the shiny object. You don't have to respond to every text and every email when you're busy knocking out your to-do list for the day. Because what you're doing is you're getting knocked off your to-do list. And when someone sent you an email and you action it, and you got to understand crystal balls and Christmas ornaments, you are now executing their to-do list. And you actually have your own criteria for that day. You got to recognize, is it a crystal ball or a Christmas ornament? Meaning, if I drop that ball and don't answer that email, is it a Christmas ornament? Gonna make a little bit of mess, I can just sweep it up? Or is it a $10,000 crystal ball? If it's a crystal ball, I would suggest you go ahead and answer that email. But if it's a Christmas ornament, you can color code it, and you can answer that email when you get to it, time sensitive. For the important emails, I'm gonna tell you what I do. I wake up the next day and I already have a prepared thought. I will send that email off at 4:02, 4:03, 3:45, because a lot of times I'm up at 3. Good ideas snatch me out of my sleep. I can't wait to get up in the morning. So what happens is, let's say I'm emailing you, and you sent me a relatively important email, and I answered it at 3:39 in the morning. And you get to work at 9, and you put smoke and joke, not you, but let's say just this role play. You smoke and joke at the water cooler, you finally fire your computer up, you get in your email, all your emails load up, and then you got to rank choice your emails. And the first thing you do is you look at the timestamps on your emails. And you look at my email, and that thing says 3:39 a.m. It sends a shockwave through your body. What it does to you about me is it says, this guy's not freaking playing. This guy is not playing. And it gives you instant credibility. When I walk into these meetings, it is what they say about me. And I'm going to tell you, as a Black business owner, to be known as the guy who's super prompt, who's going to beat you to the punch, who's going to be over prepared, who's going to outread you, out prepare you, outwork you. Because look at all the stuff we got to overcome.
Yes.
We're always looked at as the one who was given a slice, right? And I'm looked at as the one who took his slice, right? And so I'm challenging people to do these strategic communications early in the morning, and then act like it's not a big deal. Because anytime I walk into these meetings and walk into these rooms, each one of them have received a communication from me at that time in the morning. So to me, it's actually not that big of a deal. This is the existence of our relationships. And I do that on purpose to let them know who they're dealing with. It actually makes them feel some kind of way about themselves.
Exactly. You know what? Thank you for saying that, because I used to be notorious for sending emails at time of morning, working at time of morning, cranking out stuff that time of morning. Because you're right, between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., that's where a lot of the creative downloads happen. And either I'm cranking out stuff, and I used to get the comment all the time, do you ever sleep? I used to get it all the time. I say, yeah, I sleep. I say, but I'm like you. You got to, I always say this, a Black woman has to stay 5 steps ahead of everything. Yeah. So they don't fall behind on anything. And I think that's true to any individual.
We hear that Black tax, and we wear it like it's some kind of I wear it like a badge of honor. I don't want nothing to be easy. I don't like easy. I want everything hard. Don't give me nothing easy in life. I want the hardest path, the hardest road. I want to go uphill both ways. You want it easy? Good. Go over there. Get away from me. Exactly. I want everything hard. And that's why when I walk into the room, I am who I am. Well, last but not least,
yeah.
Every time I get announced in these meetings, I'm telling you, anybody can tell you, all of these big time meetings, I'll be like, Merle Avenue, stand up. Because I know who I'm in the room with. I'm talking about
good.
Leaders of industry, all the biggest CEOs, and I'm the only one in these rooms like me. Trust me, Teresa.
I believe you.
The only one in these rooms, and every time because they want you to stand up or either announce who you are or what your business. I'm the Jesus Garay, owner and CEO of Global Freight and Commerce LLC, Merle Avenue, stand up. I make sure
they know where you come from. That's good. I love it. So I love that so much. I am not going to hold you up because I know, look, you're a man of your word. You do stick to your schedule. But
you good. I got time. If you got time, I got time.
Okay. So with Global Freight Trucking, you mentioned something about these major meetings and being involved with the Chamber of Commerce and being at the decision-making table. And of course, you have to make that investment sometime to get at these tables.
That's right.
But I guess for me, why a lot of women is navigating to you, because they're trying to figure out how to command that same respect. And it's hard for a woman of gender to do that.
This is one thing I have been able to help with. So I've been giving a lot of speeches lately, and I got a female general manager. Actually, she's military, married to a military, and they're about to transition. So she literally, after 3 years, she just transitioned off last week. Female general manager, and she even realized, she was like, man, we made it. I made it possible for her to be successful, because she had a 6-month-old when I met her. Now he's 3 years old. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I realized that comes natural to me that doesn't come necessarily natural to women. And I did this to you. I do this to everybody. And I'm like, you have to do this part. This is how business is done. And this is the part that is either unnatural. If it's unnatural to you, it doesn't matter. So this is what takes a kid like me from Merle Avenue getting in trouble, and some dude who grew up in Ponte Vedra, or some dude who grew up in Yulee. It doesn't matter where we came from. This is how you see me hanging out with the biggest CEOs and the biggest people in this city. It really has less to do with what happens in the boardroom. Mm-hmm. And it starts with what happens at the golf course and what happens at 5 o'clock, right? So it's the social hours where you get to knock down barriers of communication. And some of the stuff we talk about, we start talking about football, we start talking about sports. It's sometimes women just don't want to talk about that. You may feel awkward being the only woman in the group of 7 people talking about sports. And I could show you how I'm usually the only Black dude in a group of 40 white dudes talking about everything, but they're usually all standing around me. I'm saying we need conquistadors. We need flag planters. You got to go plant your flag and be like, what we got going on?
Yeah.
We got to have those. We can't always be on the periphery begging to come in or ask or feeling like we're left out. These people will tell you. And what I tell them is you can't expect all Black people to be like this. Y'all expected every Black person in the city to be me. When I got to Jacksonville, back to Jacksonville, I went into the middle of, and I planted my flag and was like, all right, what we got going on? What's going on? What do we have going on, right? And you're expecting, but see, most of us, this is one of the things I'm dealing with us about, is we will see a group of they just happen to be white business owners or leaders over there, and our natural tendency is to feel left out. When inside the nucleus of the group, they may be very complimentary of something that be going on right now. And this is the thing I'm trying to break up in this city. You go look at the board of directors of the chamber this year. It is the most diverse in race. It is the most diverse. I'm going to take a picture next to board of directors meeting. It's never looked like this. My buddy Ray Driver, who's the chair, is probably 30 to 40% woman. There's probably at least 7 or 8 Black women on the board of directors of the chamber this year.
Wow. That is a first. That's a first. That is definitely a first.
I'll tell you.
That's a first.
And so, and I'm really pushing hard. In fact, we're doing tonight. I'm on like 3 or 4 boards over there. One of the boards I'm on is transportation logistics. I'm on government affairs, board of directors. I'm on like 3 or 4 boards. Tonight we're having our very first in like forever transportation and logistics board social, because we conduct business and we conduct business and we conduct business. And what happens is when you come up, and this is what I try to explain to them, what they're not understanding, because on a board meeting, you're not all supposed to come in and agree. You're trying to steer the direction of a committee, and you may have competing ideals. But if I only see you once a month, and every time we meet, it may be slightly argumentative, and then I go back to my world, and you go back to your world, which is what boards are. Boards are really high impact individuals that come together, and they're supposed to be, hey, we need all of you people that go have all this impact in the world to come here and be in charge of this board. Well, you're not all going to agree on things, but if we just come and every month we're just disagreeing and then we go away, that board's not going to progress. What happens is we need to be seeing each other in a social environment so that I can understand where you're coming from, so that when I see you at the board meeting, I'll know what your why is. You're not just being argumentative. I'll know your value system and what is important to you. That way we can go past the no or the I think we should do this, and we could actually see each other past the one board meeting a month, which we're doing this forced diversity thing now. And I think that's great, but it's not if we're not getting to know each other. So tonight, and this was my doing, we're having a board social just for the board at Fogo de Chao. And because our board is like 70, my board at the transportation logistics is like I think 13 of us. I think 8 of them are women. And then three of the girls, I don't even know these people. And so I'm like, no, guys, we gotta, because they know that I'm on the board of directors and I'm on all these boards around the whole city. And one of their questions is like, how are you doing? And Teresa, these are the ones I said yes to. I probably have 20 to 22 open board invitations that I've had to say no to because I don't want them to strip me away from the kids.
Right.
And so I was like, all these invitations come from my social interactions with these people after work. I was like, this is how they've gotten to know me. And that's how they see the values. Like, oh man, I need you to come do this. And I need you to come do that. So anyway, so we're doing that tonight. And I'm going to show them through this board interaction or through this social interaction. This is how we're going to progress on these we got 3 or 4 main topics that we've been stuck on for 3 months. And they don't even know what I'm going to do, why I'm doing that. But tonight, and I'm not even going to mention it, we're going to have a good time. We're going to have a couple of drinks. We're going to talk. We're going to see each other as individuals, as people. I'm going to learn about their background. They're going to understand me and my background, what's important to me, my value system. And then we're going to have a board meeting next week. And the reason why I did that today is because we got a board meeting next week. And then next week, I'm going to talk to them about, we're going to have a different board meeting than we've ever had. And I'm going to show the women in this board, this is why we got to do this. And if you're having problems in your professional career, it's because it's no longer good enough just to be good at your job.
Exactly.
Who cares? You have to go out and make an effort to get along with people.
Right.
And even if it's a little awkward, we need conquistadors. I know when I walk in the room, I'm planting the flag for almost all Black people. Because a lot of Black people ain't doing, and they're not in these rooms, right? I don't feel any kind of way about that. Okay, I said that in the beginning, in the first 5 minutes of our conversation. I don't complain about my position in the universe. I just do my work and I go about my business. And I also don't take myself serious. You see how I talk? I just be having fun.
Exactly.
But I take my work very serious, but I don't take myself very serious. It's the universe kind of flowing through me, and I just go on with my life. Because me and you could have been here in the 50s and 60s getting hosed down and getting the dog sick on us.
That's true.
So we're going through some social awkwardness. Okay, so what? That's easy to overcome. You see what I'm saying?
Right. And I love the fact where you say respecting differences, because I've served on a lot of those boards and those committees pre-pandemic, but I'm quite sure now a lot has changed, and I'm getting, rebranding, repositioning myself, evaluating my values to see what matters to me the most. Just like you said, putting that flag down. What are we doing and what is going on? So for me, I have some things in the fire that I'm trying to pursue, like all this legislation that the governor is putting with around immunizations. So I reached out to Willie, the chairman of the board. I introduced this back before this legislation was enacted. I said, I'm revisiting it because this is a workaround. If immunizations is an issue for the children and the staff, then let's work on the real estate. Let's make sure the infrastructure of the facilities are healthy. So that way no one doesn't get sick, whether they vaccinated or not. And then those are the things that I want to position. And this is something that I kind of gleaned from you, is when you're looking for the problem. And I learned over time, you got to come to the table with a solution. Just
That's
like
right.
you're saying with your transportation board. If y'all are constantly clashing heads and not making any progress, what was the purpose of the meeting?
That's right.
It was wasting time.
I'm
So
glad you said that.
go ahead.
I'm glad you said it about the real estate, because one of the other things that I suggested, because we did this in Oklahoma, was, and you're probably going to see this initiative, they keep trying to raise wages in order to keep teachers from leaving. Yep. And I'm telling them, you're going to have a top 5% in the industry that are going to leave. That's what top 5%ers do. You can't give them a $5,000 raise and keep them, because if they're making $46,000 or $47,000 a year right now, they're leaving for a $65,000 a year job. Mm-hmm. So taking them to 53 isn't going to do anything, buddy.
Right.
Top 5%ers are going to leave. What we did and what they're going to try to introduce here now, I was like, you know what we did in Oklahoma? Because even at $47,000 a year, these kids can't buy no house. Right. We did a first-time homebuyers program for brand new teachers. And we did it in the neighborhoods or the zip codes of where we needed the teachers the most. That's so now you take a 22 to 23 or 24-year-old and you do a down payment assistance and pay the first 6 mortgage payments, as long as they give you 4 years in that school or school district in that zip code. So they may be able to switch schools, or maybe you can't nail somebody to one school, but you keep them in that zip code, and they, so they can keep it fresh, maybe rotate every year or two, but keep them in that zip code, in particular in our zip codes. And then you help them buy a house in that zip code. So now they're a homeowner. So they're psychologically invested in that neighborhood. They're a school teacher, right? So they're teaching about economics and talking about real estate. They're coming to class and talking about more than just the A's and B's and C's about school. And then it's financially viable for that kid, because at the end of 4 years, they're probably going to sell that house for maybe a small or relative profit. That, in addition to whatever $5,000 or $7,000 raise you're going to give, is a total compensation package that you can offer somebody that's going to. And then when you add that to the crypto, it's not just about the $5,000. We got to have a holistic approach to how we're recruiting somebody, and wrap a new lifestyle around the package about how we're going to recruit somebody from Tampa, or how we're going to take a 23-year-old and turn them into a school teacher. One of the things we also did, and this was controversial, but we did this in Oklahoma. I'm going to tell you, it was really good. So currently, the only people taking advantage of scholarships are like A-B students in high school.
Right.
And their parents typically went to college. So they start talking about college early. My kids have been talking about college since they were 5 years old. It's what college they want to go to. It's not whether they're going to go to college. But that wasn't necessarily the case growing up on Merle Avenue, right? I got real deep. I got C's and D's and all kind of. I didn't really care. Mm-hmm. And I said this yesterday in the board meeting. I was like, we started targeting kids who didn't know they wanted to go to college, and these were B, C, and D students. I said the only difference between a C and D student and an A student is the fact that the C and D student doesn't really know that they're going to college yet. So they don't really have to give their all in high school. There's actually no difference in these two kids. As soon as we start talking to them and saying, hey, we're going to recruit you, that perks their ears up. What do you mean recruit? No one recruits a C student. And oh, by the way, we're going to pay for your college. Those students immediately turn into A and B students. And now there's no difference between those kids and the grades. It's just that they don't have a thing past high school. So there's really no reason to excel in high school. High school's kind of silly to them because they don't have the kind of parents that's talking to them about college. And whatever they're going to do in life doesn't involve college. But those are the kinds of kids that had real life experiences and that are going to relate to kindergartners more than the top 5%ers that are just looking for a way to quickly get college paid for. So I'm going to go ahead and knock this free college out, go ahead and talk to these kids for 2 or 3 years, and I'm going to go on with my life. And you're always going to have that. But we started talking to the kids that weren't doing so hot, like in 9th and 10th grade. And by the time 11th and 12th grade rolled around, those were A and B students. And they had full rides. And then they thought that was a game changer. And so now these PCS, whatever, they're about to start, they're already in the high schools. And they're going to start running some numbers to see maybe we're not even looking at the right kind of kids. We need to go down in the 8th and 9th grades and start talking to those kids about what they need to do in order to gain college scholarships. And I told them, I was like, you know why? Because you're looking at the kind of kid who initially I didn't know if the whole college thing was me other than sports. And I was getting C's and D's and sometimes A's and B's sometimes because the academic thing wasn't, I was just trying to get money. I didn't really tie school to how you're going to get money. And we got to do a better job of tying school along with some of those skill sets you're talking about in school, right? Just the nuts and bolts of A's, B's, and C's don't translate to the economy. Trust me. And I told them, I was like, I was the kind of kid that you need to recruit. And I just built my 3rd multi-million-dollar business. Probably almost everybody in this room got A's and B's. And you haven't done what I've done. Right?
Exactly. So that is the reason. If, ladies and gentlemen, if you've been listening and watching, you see the common thread with Jesus from 5th grade, how he created the business opportunity because one side of town in Jacksonville didn't have access to certain candies that we had. Then as he matriculated through school, then he, toward military, he's selling hot dogs. He doing events. In other words, he took that thread line that entrepreneurship is a creative way to find a problem to be solved and executing what you see that you envision in your head in order to monetize your business model. That may not be your main bread and butter. And that's another thing I used to tell a lot of entrepreneurs or even teachers when I was teaching. This may not be what you desire to do, but could be a path on the way to get you to where you're trying to go. And a lot of people don't want to do that because they feel like it's deviating away from their dream. And the suggestions that you're making for our school districts, for the business community, those things matter because you've been at the grassroots where most of us are. You identify the area of people that people normally don't go after because they feel like they're not going to step up to the game or be up to par to handle the challenge. But then you said it best, you got to socially get to know people in order to know what their strengths are, what their capabilities are, regardless of your gender. So that is why all this talking we've been doing, that's a theme that I'm hearing, and I hope my listenership is paying attention to, that regardless of this pandemic we in, regardless of disruptions you may have had in your personal life, your business life, your work life, your church life, there is a silver lining. Listening to the nuggets that Jesus has dropped, that you can be able to change the trajectory, not just for you, but your family, your employees, your church members, to reposition the new normal, because a lot of us trying to still go back and do stuff like we used to, and that model is not working no more. And I love it with Jesus because he talks about, even though how things change, you got to look at it through a different lens. So before we sign off, Jesus, we already know that you're an amazing 6-figure plus entrepreneur, and you have done amazing things. You constantly giving back to the community. You find time to give back to your community. That's what I love about you. Regardless how busy you are, you find time. For those individuals that's in this great resignation mode, these women that is seeking and looking for, that sign to execute whatever they've been working on? What would be your call to action to them from you before we sign off?
So for one of the things I do for everybody, this could work for women too. I want to challenge you to wake up at 4 a.m. This is unmolested time. You're not interrupting, family's not interrupting you. You're not robbing, the whole work-life balance thing isn't being interrupted at 4 a.m. From 4 to 6 is your time, you're at peace. And one of the principles of Stoicism is to be productive as the sun rises. You can be reading, you can be studying, you can be doing, maybe coming up with a new game plan. Anything it is that you want to do is really quiet. You can go into a dark space. It's really quiet, dark meaning physically dark, not dark mentally. But you have the time and space to think with no one bothering you. And I would ask you to get used to doing that, because what happens is you have the psychological advantage of feeling like you gained ground before the rest of the world woke up. Again, even as a business owner, I'm finished with the admin portion of my day prior to 6 a.m. So now 6 a.m. is about battlefield circulation and reacting to contact. As a business owner, or whatever it is you do in life, you know your plan is only as good until them kids wake up. Once them kids wake up, you have lost control of your day.
Right.
So I'm going to challenge you to wake up earlier, right? I'm going to challenge you to push your capacity to wake up earlier. And you will be surprised at how you're not. And then what's going to happen is it's going to force you to go to bed a little earlier. You don't need to be up till midnight watching Netflix. There's nothing going on at midnight. Go ahead and go to bed at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And then it'll get you a really good rest. And then you can't wait to get up at 4 and be extremely productive. That 4 to 6 a.m., I'm telling you, business owners can't think, because one of the things that they don't have time to do is read. I'm real big on that book app, that the reading app Audible, but reading is the thing that's going to allow you to tap into 10,000 authors. And so they cannot believe how they've even been able to be successful without having this 2 hours of unmolested time in the morning. And now you'd be surprised who I got doing this in this city. And see, this is the thing I want to tell you about. I go crazy. I go overboard with this 4 to 6 thing, and people struggle with it a little bit. Then they start at 5, then they go to 4:30, and then they finally get to 4. But in my phone, I probably have no less than 100 millionaires on my phone.
Oh, wow.
When we talk to each other, do you know what time we text each other? I don't have to ask them. They're all up at 4 or 5 in the morning. And all of the people who need to be up, who can't afford not to be, are asleep. I didn't have to ask or convince those people to get up at that time. Those people, without being asked and without being told, know what they have to do to gain ground. I have to convince the people who say they want to get ahead to get up replicate the behavior patterns of the people who are doing or who are where you want to be. And I talk about that right now. All the people in my phone that say they want to be successful, I might text you at 4:15 or 4:30, you are nowhere to be found, right? And I could text 6 or 7 of my friends right now. They'll text me right now. They're either on the treadmill, or they're in their home office, or they're reading, or they're doing something. And this is actually when we communicate, because we know we're busy during the day. So when we want to reach each other, and I show people when I'm mentoring them, I showed them some of the text messages from my friends, and I showed them who they are. They'll see the name, and they'll see the timestamp on the text when they send it to me. And I was like, this is when we talk, right? So I don't know what kind of friends you have, but once you start developing these kind of friends, this is when they'll text you, and this is when you'll reach them. And this is kind of a silent.
I'm glad you said that. So that makes me feel like, so when I do text people that time morning, they'll text me back. Then I know them ain't the friends I need. Because I have sent them text messages like that early in the morning. And when they don't respond, or the thing still, it don't show that they read it, I'm like, so thank you for letting me know that them ain't the friends I need to be texting.
Everybody get up 4 a.m. I'm challenging everybody to wake up 4 o'clock in the morning and start being productive, whatever it is, whatever that means to you.
I love it. I love it. Well, everyone, we've been listening and having a candid conversation with Mr. Jesus Garay, the CEO and founder of Global Freight trucking and commerce. I mean, dropping gems, dropping nuggets, giving insight that something amazing can come out the urban community neighborhood, from, selling candy to your classmates to running transportation all over this country. So parents, if you have those children that's very entrepreneur at a very early age, please don't discourage them. Support them and empower them. Jesus is a testament of that it is possible. And he gave us a call to action, ladies and gentlemen. We need to get up at 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. so we can get ahead of the world if we want to be that game changer now in society. So thank you so much for your time, Mr. Gray. Hope you stay safe. Keep doing what you're doing. And we hope to have you again in the future on Courageous Conversations with Teresa W. Gamble.
Thank you. You too, Teresa. See you later.
All right.
You've been listening to Courageous Conversation with Teresa W. Gamble. Courageous Conversation is powered by Concierge Resource Professional Consultant.